Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing today? Nope, I lost you. I can't hear you. All right, good morning, everybody. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. If you could post in the chat real quick, if you can hear me okay. All right, thank you, Steve. Not sure what was happening, but the recording was not working properly. All right, so we're going to jump in and get started here. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm Robert Theobald. I'm the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services. And I'd like to welcome you all today to today's boot camp. We like to start these out by thanking all of our, actually, before we get into that, I want to just ask that everybody post in the chat where you're tuning in from. We like to see where our participants are from. So if you can throw that in the chat real quick, that'd be great. All right, so we got Clifton, Arizona, Phoenix, Oro Valley, Glendale. All right, Phoenix. We want to thank everybody for being with us. Oh, Green Valley, thank you for being here. We're going to jump right in. One of the things we like to do is thank all of our community partners. We could not do these sessions without them, without their time, their effort, and their expertise. They're incredibly crucial for the success of the boot camps. They all give back of their time, and so we are very grateful. Also, for those that are new to the boot camp, we like to share that the Small Business Boot Camp is to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. It is not just our Tuesday morning webinar that we're on today, but we also do some workshops, lunch and learns, special sessions. And so by signing up and being part of it, you get our email list, you get to see all of that. And then we will also talk about some of those upcoming things here shortly. So one of the key pieces of the boot camp is the content library. We, besides hosting the webinars and the workshops, we also record them and place those recordings in our content library, where we have well over 300, closer to 360 webinars that are recorded that you can access at any time. We like to include the slide decks that are part of it, so you have all the materials to go back and watch if you couldn't make it live, or if you want to review it. They're all available to you in that content library. Also, the ACA has a number of other programs that help support small businesses throughout the state. You can find more information on these, plus additional ones, at azcommerce.com/programs. One of the programs we do like to talk about is the Small Business Checklist. It is an online interactive tool that helps small businesses that are looking to get started or looking to expand identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance requirements at the local, state, and federal levels. It's a great resource. You can scan that QR code with your phone. It'll take you right to it. And we'll post some links to some of these programs in the chat here in a little bit. Also, we have an upcoming lunch and learn. As I mentioned, we do lunch and learns and other things on Thursday, October 17th at 11 a.m. This is a virtual lunch and learn. The registration is on the boot camp homepage, but you can go to this. It's a great session. It's going to be hosted by the Small Business Administration, or presented by the Small Business Administration, talking about their new credit line product that they just came out with to help businesses increase their access to credit, and have working capital options for their business. So it's a really cool product, and who could better explain it than the SBA themselves? So we're excited to have them on board for that. Here's a quick look at our upcoming sessions. We've got a number of great sessions for you. If you're a growing business, I definitely would encourage you to take a look at next week's at what is a PEO and why a small business should be using one. Then we have AI tools for real-time business efficiency and understanding why and how of data and data infrastructure. So we've got a lot of interesting topics coming up to help small businesses expand and grow. With that, we're going to jump into today's session. We have one of our repeat presenters. We love having Donna Hoover with us. She does a great job. Donna is the founder and CEO of Mighty Underdogs and Leader Laboratory. She's got her doctorates in strategic management. She's a great presenter, does a lot of great work down in the Tucson area and throughout the country. So Donna, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And before you start yours, just some real quick housekeeping things. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A that you find at the bottom of your screen. And then we'll use the chat for additional interaction. Donna may ask questions in her presentation. We can answer those in the chat. But if you have questions specifically for Donna, please post them in the Q&A so we can make sure we try to get those answered. And with that, Donna, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me see what we've got here. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. And I want to get, as we get started, some of you attended the first presentation that we did on teams was 5 dysfunctions of a team, and that was done back in July. And after that meeting, talking about how teams operate together and how they function and building trust, I talked to Robert about doing an advanced workshop here on growing your teams. And when I say growing, it doesn't mean making them bigger. It means, how do we develop our teams to be high-performing teams? And I've had many companies looking at not just putting people together in a group and say, you guys are a team, let's go make something happen. It's really taking a look at, how do you get to select your team? How do you pick the individuals that are best suited to work on the project? So we're talking today about creating and leading productive teams. Those are big words. I first started with leading productive teams. And then I thought, well, not all teams are productive. So, and we don't always lead, we have to create first. And so I changed the title up a little bit to say, how do we create productive teams and then lead the productive teams? So as we look at the agenda today, it's really about a mindset change on teams, because when I Google, high performing teams, what do they look like? And you get their very standard, predictable items of how to make high performing teams. And I thought, well, this really isn't about that. So what is it? It's how do we manage the work and put the people into the work that needs to be done? So we talk about teams and the mindset change, high performing teams. What does that really mean? Building your teams is around activities of work, categories of work, stages of work, and actions you can take. This material comes from Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius. It's kind of his new model. I've been working with Patrick for about 25 years, maybe a little bit longer. And working with 5 dysfunctions of a team is his thing that he came out with. And many of his books, he has about 12 different books that are written in a fable format. So there's storytelling on how to run meetings and 5 dysfunctions of a team. So, and all the different pieces of building trust and conflict, positive conflict, good conflict, how to make good conflict, uh, commitment to what we're trying to do and the activities, and then the accountability and results. Those are your 5 elements of 5 dysfunctions of a team. How are teams typically created? I've worked with about over 5,000 companies through 30 years, the last 30 years, and looking at how teams get assigned. And we use teams as a generic word when a lot of times it's really just a group of people. And so they're not really assigned to work on a task. You know, they're not selected. They're just typically you've been given a team or they're assigned to you. I hear many times I didn't get to pick these people. But yet we have to work together. And how do I motivate my team? Well, it really does start with the selection and the work. A lot of times they're created by who's available at the time. A group, and a group is not a team, it's just a group of individuals. We look at that with volunteers, who's available in our company that day. They may not be skilled, they may not be trained, but you get them as your team member. They're typically internal members. And what I wanted to introduce, I've been working with a couple of municipalities in the Arizona area and in Michigan, and looking at how do we use gig workers? Many of these large companies and municipalities, governments typically don't use outsiders. They pick internal people to be members of the team when sometimes we don't always own all the employees that we need that are necessary for the work that needs to be done. And so tapping the outside to bring them in and be part of your team. I have worked as an outsider and I typically don't get included as the team as one of the excuse me as one of the team members, but it'd be good, how do you integrate internal resources and external resources to optimize a really good team to get the work that needs to be done completed in a timely fashion? Assessments, typically, how do we come up with teams? And all of the work that is out there, when I said I Googled high performing teams, it's all around the people, which is not wrong. Oop, I say I got a little typo in there. Sorry about that. Strength finders. How are people identified? We look at the people that are in the teams. Strength finders is used, DISC is used, Myers-Briggs, predictive index, 360s, and there might be a variety of others that are used to help look at the people. What Patrick Lencioni has done in his Working Genius is said, let's take a look at the work that needs to be done. We already know who the people are and can pick from a variety of resources, internal and external. But what's the work that really needs to be done? And that's why I picked this little different mindset change. It's not as much about the people, it's about the work. I find many CEOs, managers, VPs, a lot of them are focused on managing and leading people, which is good. But a lot of times they don't understand the work that's being done. And I think some of you out there can attest to that. You can find that there's a lot of people that hire you or ask you to do a job. They don't really understand what it is they're buying or the work that is required. That's why they want it done quick and they want it done cheap, because they don't understand the work that needs to be done to make a successful result. The this presentation is around, I said Patrick Lencioni is around. The model that he uses, the Working Genius, is 80% about the work. And so it's really, I'm going to show you how to look at the work that is being done, and 20% about the people. We have a lot of experts in our gig economy and internally. And if we match the work to the people and go look for the right people to do the right pieces of the job, I think some of you have, I noticed some of the names on our attendance list today, and that you have participated or have watched when I talk about matching people up, doing people assessments with the strength finders. How do we get the right people in the right seats for the right job? This is focusing on what is the right job. Excuse me. Gears. I picked this because the gears, Patrick Lencioni also uses gears showing how the different types of people need to work together in a team to make a team work and not just be a group of individuals that passes their project from department to department to department. And we meet weekly to check in and see how we're coming on the project. The gears are put together with different people that you can see at the bottom. Some are in suits, some are women, some are men, some have a hard hat. They're all playing different roles in making those gears move. And many of you know that if one gear gets stuck, it jams up the whole system and the whole process. And so this picture was to depict how our teams come together, the individuals within the teams make a big difference on how well the gears move and get stuck or not get stuck. So how do we keep it moving? What is a high performing team? They deliver results ahead of time, under budget, and generate what's next. They deliver results ahead of time, under budget, and generate what's next. Where do we start? First, identify what activities are required for the project. Second, what skills and talents do we need, or assess the skills and talents that we need to do the project. And third, identify the who. So you have what are the activities for the project? What skills and talents are needed? And how do I identify the talents for each phase of the project? So I'll go through each of these sections to say, well, how do we break up what the project is and identify the different pieces of a project? And then second, look at the skills and talents that go with that. And third, how do we identify the phases? So understanding the working genius model by Patrick Lencioni distills any kind of work down to 6 fundamental activities. So we'll look at those 6 fundamental activities. Like your Myers-Briggs, you have, I think there's 16 combinations. Patrick has chosen 6 fundamental activities. You have strength finders, there are 35. So it's an attempt to take the work and break it into phases, into pieces, into segments, and match the people up to those 6 fundamental activities. Help people fit into the process of work. So we'll talk about that. I find many times consultants and inside companies, they don't talk about the process of work. So what does that look like? And then we provide teams with a better way to think about their dynamics, their projects, their meetings, and even their hiring. One that I just finished yesterday with this genius model and looking at the people that they have and creating this new team, they found that they're missing 2 or 3 key components. And so I told them we can look outside to bring in those key components because you only need them for the project. You don't need to hire them or own them full time. And then when the project is over, like an election, when the election is over, there's some follow-up and then you're done. So how do we integrate internal and external people to work on a project and to feel part of a common team? Questions, comments? Good. What are the 6 activities that the work is broken into 6 pieces and the people fit into these 6 areas? We all have these 6, but which ones bring us joy and that we're passionate about and that we thrive in doing? Which two are the two that, yes, we can do, we're very competent in it, but we don't love it. And if we do too much of it, we get burnout. And then there are two that brings us frustration. Yes, we're all mature, grown adults. We can do all six of these. We know how to do all six of these. We can do all six of these, particularly as entrepreneurs. We have to be able to do all of them. But which two help us thrive? Which two are we competent in and can do? And which two, gets put last on the list? Let me go back and talk about these for a second. Wonderment, out of the six pieces, there's wonderment, which we would call brainstorming. We have brainstorming meetings. Where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? What are all the possibilities? And it pulls from the external. What do we see out there that is going on that we can solve that problem or even identify the problem? So we're in wonderment, we're in futuristic, we're in strategic. What are all the possibilities to make an opportunity or to make a statement or to make a difference in our communities? Invention is the person who loves to come up with a new idea. How wonder and invention are different. Wonder takes from the outside and finds things that are missing, gaps in our society, places that need improvement, things that we see that we could work on. Invention is actually coming up with a new idea. It's using internal resources. What do we have that we can use to address some of those wonderment areas? So the external environment has many things that could be changed and adjusted and taken care of. The inventor comes up with the new idea to solve that problem or to address that issue with the internal resources that we have. Discernment takes a look at patterns of what we do well. Let's say if we're a company, discernment, what kind of things do we do well? What are we good at? Where can we make money? Where can we get some traction? How do we add to what we're already doing and not create something totally new? So who does the discernment if we choose A, B, or C? Galvanizing talks about call that the cheerleader, the ambassador in your organization, in your team. Who's exciting people to continue? Who's cheering them on? Which person is playing the role of, let's keep this project going. We're having fun with it. They sometimes make a game out of it so that we can stay engaged and stay focused on what it is we agreed to in discernment. Because our wonder people want to come in and come up with new ideas all the time. And the inventor has new ways of doing something. Discernment says, no, we agreed to these two items for this reason. Galvanizing says we're going to pick this one and we're going to stay focused on it and we're going to get it on time. Enablement and tenacity are the next two that go together. Enablement actually gathers all the resources, gathers the tools, builds the checklist, make sure that we have all the materials in the right place at the right time so that the project can actually be completed on time with all the resources inside. They procure the resources from the outside if you need them and make sure they're here in a timely fashion. Like example of building a house. Once you've decided what it is you're building, what kind of materials are going to be used, they go and procure the materials and get a good deal on it. Tenacity actually brings it over the finish line. They're the ones that say on time, on time, on time with a quality product. So they work with enablement to help build the quality in there, and tenacity actually keeps us on time and keeps us focused and not make scope creep or schedule changes or engineering changes or design changes. Tenacity doesn't allow things to creep in that can either go over budget, cause the project to go over budget, or to extend the timeline. So you can see each of those 6 pieces. As a gig performer, we have to have all 6 of those in us, and we all do have 6 of those in us, but which ones really get us to thrive and we get excited about? And so Patrick has his little assessment that you can take. It's only $25. It's just on there. Find out the information on your own about who you are and what's the best area that you thrive in and which ones bring you frustration. You might be surprised at the results that come out. And then when we look at this, we can start to build our team. If we have 6 people in our team, who thrives in which areas? This is what it looks like and how the gears go together, and where wonderment and invention, discernment, galvanizing, you can follow the arrows of how it creates widget, because we're all creating a widget. You can apply the process to any project that you're working on, but know your space. I am a DG, are my high places that I thrive, and invention and enablement and tenacity I'm not so good at. I need other partners to help me pull in the best resources at the best price and to get it over the finish line sometimes. Wonderment, I call those outer space people, that they're always thinking ADHD is in that area, but you also need wonderment to solve problems. So how each of these 6 pieces work together and are needed to make a complete project and build your team. Okay, I was mentioning that out of the 6, we have all 6, but there's 2 in each category of passion, competence, and frustration. I mentioned that a couple of slides ago. Say, what are your passions? What brings you energy? And if it brings you energy, you've heard it with strength finders, that if we do what we're good at and what brings us joy, it's not going to feel like work. And I get paid to do what I'm passionate about. That's always an ideal spot. A couple of different other consultants that are out there. Jim Collins talks about that too. Finding that sweet spot of where you thrive and try to live in that space that you thrive. What is that? And we equate it back to these items because the team has to work together. You need all of the pieces. Procrastination comes from when my area, E&T, enablement and tenacity. I procrastinate because those are my areas of frustration. So knowing yourself is the best team member you can be, knowing what pieces you bring to the team, and stick with that and volunteer it. Okay, what are you passionate about? What are you competent? Where are your competencies? You can do time to time, but not long term. So doing it time to time means, yes, I can do it probably 20% of my time, but not today. I'll do it tomorrow. Frustrations, I try to avoid. And so it's hard for me to get projects completed unless I force myself. So knowing which items are yours, what are you passionate about? What are you competent at? And what brings you frustration? Sometimes when the project doesn't go well, or we're a solopreneur, it is all about us. When we make mistakes, we feel it's all about us when we're just not aligned with the project. So it's finding your right spot, that it's not all about you. It's the rest of the team plays a role as well. Effective teams. What are effective teams? How to overcome the team dysfunctions. When I mentioned at the beginning about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, I have I have a new team that we're putting together, building. And I mentioned that we just finished that up yesterday to see what the team map looks like. And we talk about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And they asked, how do you prevent being a dysfunctional team? And so I have them now looking at, ask the first thing, what does the work require? So they've identified now that they have 5 different projects inside their department that they're working on. And so what is the flow of those 5 different projects that are needed? And what, let's see, how do we develop the fit? Out of here, oh, I want to skip ahead for a second to a chart that I put on here called elevation. It's at the back. And it's called altitude of genius. These are portions of how focused people are on a project. So when we start a project, the focus is going to be on wonderment of what does this need to look like? What's the size, the shape, the scope, what needs to be in it? What problem are we solving? I saw that Charlene Westgate is on here. And when we talked about landscaping, she does garden design. So you look at the wonderment pieces. Well, what are all the plants that I have to work with in the current yard? That's my environment. And I have many other plants that we can put in here and replace. What is the topography of the land? What are we trying to build? What are we trying to create? How are you going to use your yard? What is the front going to look like? What's the back going to look like? Those are all wonderment questions. What is it you're trying to create? Another one I use, are you building Taj Mahal or are you building the Eiffel Tower? They're very different materials. They're very different locations. They're different people, different purposes, different needs. Those are all wonderment. Invention is, okay, now we've decided this is what our square block looks like. This is kind of the size and shape of the cube. We've decided it's going to be out of metal and not clay. And this is, we build a prototype. We talk about manufacturing. So you build a prototype. Then discernment fits in, and you can see the elevation, the 30,000 feet, the 25,000. We get closer and closer and closer to the execution. Discernment is, oh, it can only be made out of this type of metal or this type of clay for the best price and the best structure. Given the features that you're looking for, the person that has discernment really focuses on what's the best material to use for this, and within the cost constraints that we have and the time constraints that we have. They can discern what is the best approach. Galvanizing, again, is the cheerleader that says, okay, we're excited. Now we bring the next person in. Salesperson sometimes plays that role. Customer service plays that role. Who else? When I say customer service, you have customer relationship person. And they're there to keep the team together, keep them engaged, keep it on track, and keep people motivated. Because you can see from this example, the galvanizing person, we've already lost the wonder guy a long time ago because they don't really care if it's out of metal or clay. They just want their idea to be heard. So do we need to continue to include them? Those are some discussions as you travel this journey of galvanizing enablement. Actually puts the people together and starts building the kit, starts building the house and running into issues, but they are enabling them. They make sure the nuts and bolts are there. They make sure the wood is there. They make sure the plastic is there. They make sure the tubes and pipings are already there. So that's getting closer because the finish date is coming up in 30 days. Tenacity plays a role. They're down on the ground, making sure that the customer is actually going to get their installment on the right time at the right day and completes. So I share this so you can get a little visual of as they call it, altitude of where these people play a role. Where does the idea come from? and how did it get there, and how do we get it across the finish line? And then part of the goal of leadership is to make sure that wonderment and tenacity actually have a thread through all of these gears to connect, so that what the wonderment person came up with to solve the problem, by the time we get to the end, that it actually solves the problem. So there is a connection that runs that thread. Go back up here to show this sheet of the gears actually coming together. And the stages of work are down at the bottom, where it has ideation, activation, and implementation. You have your styles of work, the phases of work, the wonderment, the invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity are part of the three phases of work, phases of work. Ideation, that would be like your designers come together, and I work in manufacturing. So we'll have our designers and the manufacturing people actually work together to make sure that we can make what the designer or dreamer is thinking up. So they're creating something, can we actually make it? And can we make it, with cost constraints and time constraints? So then it bounces over to activation, where you have the discernment of, is it the real material? The real material that we can get, can we get it? We have the port strike that is coming on that started last night. So with that strike, we know in any kind of manufacturing, we're going to have difficulty getting product. And so the discernment piece is now looking at, can we still make the idea and the product that we wanted to make, the invention, knowing that we're not going to be able to get materials. The port strike said I keep track of this in strategic planning and product development, that for every 1 day of the strike, we lose 5 days in supply chain activities. And so I'm being mindful of that. It changes my discernment of where can we make money, how can we make money, and it's going to extend our timeline. So I need the galvanizing person to actually keep us all engaged and keep us intact while this port strike is taking hold. So I work with a lot of people that use Home Depot and other material providers like that, that we're going to have a lot of delays. So it's keeping track of the team, keep us all engaged is what the galvanizing person does. The discernment, sometimes we need to make some changes to make the invention actually happen. Enablement, working with purchasing, procurement, they play that role. And tenacity is you're going to be your customer relationship person. And so the person that takes it off the finish line. The two areas that we typically see is ideation and implementation. You hear it all the time. Let's come up with the idea and let's execute. Come up with the idea and execute. The activation piece in the middle is our weak spot in many of our businesses and in much of our manufacturing. And you see it, let's say I'm working in a company with solar panels and roofing. They have that same issue. They have the invention and they just want to get it installed. But the galvanizing piece is a problem area, so people avoid it. Discernment and galvanizing. We don't need the cheerleaders, and is what they think. So that the cheerleaders are the glue. The galvanizing person is the glue that keeps the team together and on task. Discernment keeps us on track with the financials and the product development process. It can't change, or our cost constraints change, or our timing can change. So discernment and galvanizing play a very important role in being the glue of what makes the invention happen and finishing at the deadline under budget and ahead of schedule. Team map. Again, I'm going to go back and review this. We look here at the activities of work: wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enable, and tenacity. That is your workflow. I don't know how many of you do workflows. I find a lot of companies don't look at the work that needs to be done. They just pass out projects. But it's really doing a workflow matters. And it really helps focus on the resources that you need. So when we look at that, now let's take a look at the team that we've assessed and where they are, what brings them passion and thrive, where are they competent, and what brings them frustration. Because as leaders, since we're creating the team and then we're leading the team, I want to create a good team. So I have to really understand what the workflow is. And when I understand what the flow is, now I can pick people that thrive in each of the areas: ideation, implementation, and activation. Those three areas, I need people that thrive in those. So now this is what my team map would look like. I give you a sample so that we can talk about it for a few minutes. So our team map, the widget is in the middle. So it's wonderment, invention, discernment, galvanizing. Yes,
So Donna, we have, as you jump into this, I think we have a question that you can answer while you're talking about this,
sure.
that Andy had asked. Depending on size of project, you get some individuals to run 2 or 3 of the listed 6 strategies. So I just want to share that. So as you're talking about the team, you know, you might be able to mention or respond to that.
Ask that again for me.
Depending on the size of project, do you get
Yep.
some individuals to run 2 or 3 of the listed 6 strategies?
Yes, you do have multiples depending on the size. And that's where I go back to the work flow. So when you have multiple projects, I mentioned about a city that I'm working with, they have 5 projects, but they only have 3 employees. And so you have to be on multiple projects. In this particular company that I'm referencing, a city, they have 3 employees in this department, but they have 5 projects. They are in, most of their people are in ET, and the leader of the department is in WI. They have nobody in discernment and nobody in galvanizing. And so that's where we're looking at the map to see who's where. Keep people out of their frustration, keep people into where they're a genius and where their competencies are. Competencies aren't listed on the sheet, but you use your cheat sheet and look and see who's competent when they test it out, did the assessment. And yes, you can move them around. I also asked, this company here is bigger, so you have more choices. But again, access your outside resources. I talked to them about using volunteers, talked to them about using people borrowing from other departments, because we're supposed to be moving from a command and control or functional departments into collaborative teams. So team and collaboration goes together, which in theory means I can borrow employees from any other department, because the project, your own business is a project. So the project requires somebody that, all of these 6 areas, who's going to play them? Your genius, your thrive area, you only have 2. And so you can look at the WI as your first 2 in this example. DG is where you're competent, and ET can be where your frustration. And so, how do I mix these? How do I build my team and build it? The people, the resources. You have resources everywhere. We don't always use the resources that we have. And so I just keep testing people out, assessing and looking for ETs, which is what this the municipality does too. They assess for ETs. They want a lot of ETs. Many companies like ETs. Get them over the finish line. Get over the finish line. We have many people in management are high in wonder and invention. They have a hard time with discernment and galvanizing. That is very normal and typical. So it's really looking at where are your people, how can you engage them the best? This company, the municipality I'm talking about, this department has had a lot of turnover in their department. And so nobody is bad or wrong because it's not about judgment. It's not even about skill. It's really about where do the passions lie. If you only need one or two in wonderment and invention, but sometimes you need a lot of soldiers. The discernment and galvanizing piece, the discernment sets the priorities. They're the ones that set the priority. And the galvanizing are the ones that is the glue. So you have to find some people that fit that category somewhere. And sometimes, like I said, you have to reach into other departments. And when let's see, the other chart? I wanted to use this one. Let's go to this one where we have ideation, activation, and implementation. The person asked if you have multiple projects and you have few people, do they serve in different areas? Yes, you can group your people in ideation, activation, and implementation and move them through. You don't want your people that shine and thrive in ideation to be participating in your implementation area because they'll derail it every time. They'll say, where did that idea come from? When they made it, they made the idea, but a month later, they're testing and asking and qualifying again of why did we pick this? Where did it come from? Who put it there? Well, they did. So like this municipality said, yeah, you don't want me. She's a ideation person. You don't want me in implementation because they change it. That's where scope creep comes from. That's where project changes come from, and it derails the project. So getting those, really spending your time to find those discernment and galvanizing people will keep your projects intact, get them done under budget and under time, ahead of time. So those are your areas of how you're looking for people. Our society also doesn't reward the people that are in discernment and galvanizing. So that's why we don't have so many of them. They're out there. They're just hidden. So it's finding who has it. This is the map that we use, and that's what we end up with. What action items are next? It's learn your widget combination. I gave you the link so that you can go there. You don't need a consultant to help you with it. I mean, it's like anything, it's nice, but as Robert knows, we're here to teach. We're not here to sell things. So I just give you the link if you want to learn more about yourself and try putting together some teams based on the work that needs to be done, not just people you're assigned to. Sometimes find out who are the ones that are assigned to you. And then you, as the leading person for that team, can compensate. Sometimes again, when you've been given a team or inheriting a team, you have to work with the team that you've got. So know who the players are. Where do they thrive? And how do you work together? Have your team assessment. You create your map and understand yourself and your team members will help you a lot in getting under budget and ahead of schedule. If everyone is moving forward together, it's like those gears, then success takes care of itself. It'll happen. Contact information. Robert, I like when you pop up. That's a good timekeeper.
Oh, no problem. So great job, great presentation. Do we have any questions? I know we had one that we answered. If you have questions, please post them up in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen.
My goal with this, and I talked to Robert about it too, it's a new way of looking at teams, creating teams, and developing your team. It's sometimes we have to hear it, over and over and over again. So for some of us, some people, this is the first time they've heard of looking at a team this way, or being part of a team this way. So we wanted to put it out here, and we'll continue to evolve and grow this to use and develop your teams further as time goes on.
Yeah, I've done some of the Patrick Lencioni stuff in the past, and it is a different way of looking at it. It's all the dynamics are still there. It's just a different way of looking at it, and but it definitely applies and can help the teams grow and be stronger. So, well, it doesn't look like we're. Oh, go ahead, Don.
And I think I was going to say, with your small business boot camp and doing these recordings, I think what I noticed is you try to give people different ways of looking at problems and identifying solutions. So that you have a kaleidoscope view that, sometimes we get tired of hearing the same old way and want to try something new, but then something new is sometimes difficult to understand and to implement because it's new. So I like that you put different things in here.
Yeah, we like to have a wide variety of stuff here in the boot camp, in the recordings, and allow some of these different thoughts to show up. This might be a good one also to share with your teams, to look at that, for those attending. Maybe go back and watch this with your teams and go through some of those different steps and categories, and see how everybody feels about it and where they fall. You can also look at Donna's previous presentation, that was dealt a little directly more with the 5 dysfunctions of a team. But these tools are resources for your business. We hope they can make them better. So with that, we will be glad to give back some time to everybody. We'll wrap up here a few minutes early, and we want to thank everybody for being with us. We want to thank Donna for her time. And we hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, have a great week. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks.